Okay, picture this. You're stepping out into your very own backyard. It's a gorgeous, warm summer evening, the sun is just starting to set, and everything is perfectly, beautifully still. You see the grass, the trees, maybe some bright flowers, and they're all just resting quietly. But what if I told you that your peaceful, quiet garden is actually hiding an invisible, buzzing world of total mystery? What if there's this entire hidden universe of wild activity happening right under your nose, completely invisible to your eyes and entirely silent to your ears? Well, buckle up, because welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to unpack a truly thrilling scientific mystery about the secret lives of the plants sitting right outside your window. So, come here, lean in close for a second. What if the flowers in your garden were actually making noises you just couldn't hear? I mean, really think about it. Imagine if every single time the wind blew, or a little bug landed on a leaf, or a gardener walked by, the plants were actually calling out, whispering, or even shouting, but their voices were just completely invisible to our human ears? It sounds like pure magic, right? Or maybe the setup for a spooky science fiction movie. But for one super curious, incredibly determined scientist, this wild idea wasn't just some made-up fantasy. It was a real scientific hypothesis that he was desperately trying to prove. And that brings us to where our mystery really begins, with a brilliantly curious scientist named Thomas. Now, Thomas firmly believes there are literally millions of sounds in the world that are completely inaudible to us. And to prove it? Well, he's locked himself away in his messy, unpainted wooden shed. Picture a workbench absolutely covered in a chaotic mess of colorful wires, silver tubes, batteries, and all these small, sharp tools. But the absolute most important thing in this room is the strange contraption he is building. It's this mysterious, heavy black box about 3 feet long and kind of shaped like a child's coffin. Thomas is working with this intense, breathless excitement, his fingers moving super fast, twisting dials and double-checking his diagrams, because he's building a machine designed to do the impossible. He wants to listen to the unheard world. Now, Thomas isn't trying to hear ghosts or anything like that. He is trying to hear ultrasonic sounds. And ultrasonic simply refers to sound waves that vibrate at a frequency way, way higher than the human ear can naturally detect. You see, our ears can really only pick up a specific, limited range of vibrations, but Thomas has designed his strange black box to basically stretch his hearing out like long, thin wires. He wants to send his hearing up and up into this secret, forbidden territory. We're talking about a dangerous ultrasonic region where human ears have literally never, ever been before. He wants to map out the invisible noises of the universe. Okay, so the time has finally come to put this massive machine to the ultimate test. First, Thomas carefully lifts this incredibly heavy box. He carries it out of his shed, totally struggling with the weight, and places it super delicately on a small wooden table out on his lawn. Second, he plugs the wire connections from his earphones right into the machine and slips them right over his ears. And third, well, this is the scariest part. He slowly prepares to turn the dial. The scene is perfectly set for a movie. The sun has gone down, there's absolutely no wind, there is no sound at all in the garden. Thomas is pale, he's thin, and he is visibly trembling with a mix of crazy excitement and a deep, deep fear about what his machine might actually pick up. So Thomas puts his left hand on the volume control and his right hand on the central dial. And get this, the dial is marked with massive numbers going all the way up to 1 million. As he slowly turns the knob, he starts to hear this faint, strange, jerky crackling in his earphones, followed by a low, distant humming. He is incredibly tense, his head is cocked to the side, just waiting. Now, right over the low fence in the very next garden, his neighbor, Mrs. Saunders, is just peacefully walking around. She's got a flower basket on her arm and a sharp pair of scissors in her hand. Thomas barely even notices her, though. He is way too focused on the crackling in his headphones. Mrs. Saunders casually bends down to her beautiful yellow rose bush. Snip! Just like that, Mrs. Saunders takes a thick green rose stem in her fingers, opens her sharp metal scissors and snaps them completely shut, severing the beautiful yellow flower right off the bush. It is an everyday, perfectly normal, totally innocent garden activity. Or so it seems. Because suddenly, bam! Thomas literally jumps completely out of his skin, dropping his hands straight off the table. Blasting through his earphones is a frightful, piercing shriek. It's this throatless, inhuman scream. It is sharp, it's short, it's clear, and it is incredibly cold. It has this strange, minor, metallic quality that Thomas has never, ever heard before in his entire life. It is the literal sound of pure, unseen terror blasting directly into his ears from an otherwise totally silent garden. Thomas is absolutely terrified. He starts frantically whipping his head around. Where on earth did that scream come from? I mean, he fully expects to see a person standing right next to him, just yelling in agony. But the garden is completely empty. The air is totally still. There is absolutely no one in sight, except for the woman next door. He watches Mrs. Saunders bending down, completely unbothered, just peacefully placing that yellow rose into her little basket. And then it hits him. Could it be? Could that horrific sound have actually come from the plant itself?
But hey, Thomas is a scientist, and what does a scientist need? Proof. He runs straight over to the fence, just a frantic, arm-waving guy with these huge earphones bouncing around on his head. He shouts out in this high, loud voice, "Mrs. Saunders? Oh, Mrs. Saunders, cut another one! Please, cut another one, quickly!" Now, poor Mrs. Saunders is incredibly alarmed. I mean, she already thought her neighbor was a bit peculiar, but now he seems totally unhinged. She actually debates just running back into her house, but decides to just humor him. "Certainly, Mr. Thomas, if you like," she says. So she reaches back down into her basket. She takes out those sharp metal scissors once again. She finds another beautiful yellow rose on the bush. She opens the blades, clamps them right around the green stem, and snip. And at the exact fraction of a second that the scissor blades slice through the living stem of that rose, that frightful throatless shriek blasts through his earphones again. The timing is completely 100% perfect. He tears the earphones off his head, runs right up to the fence, and tells a completely bewildered Mrs. Saunders, "I heard the cry of pain." He basically confirms to her that every single time she cuts a stem, the rose is literally screaming in the most terrible way. Thomas peers at her through his thick spectacles and throws out this intense, super chilling theory. He asks her, "How do you know that a rosebush doesn't feel as much pain when someone cuts its stem in two as you would feel if someone cut your wrist off with garden shears? It is alive, isn't it?" I mean, wow, that is a completely wild, haunting thought that instantly changes how you look at a simple basket of flowers, right? And the crazy part is the math behind it. 132,000. Thomas tells Mrs. Saunders that the cry he heard was vibrating at approximately 132,000 vibrations a second. Try to imagine that. That is so incredibly high, so impossibly fast, that it is way, way beyond anything a normal human could ever hear without his special black box. It's essentially a secret, invisible alarm bell ringing out at lightning speed. So, unsurprisingly, Mrs. Saunders is completely spooked at this point. She says a super quick goodnight and dashes for the safety of her house as fast as she possibly can. But Thomas? He isn't done yet. He needs more data. He walks slowly back to his wooden table, puts those heavy earphones back on, and listens to the faint crackling. He looks down at the lawn and spots this tiny, small white daisy just growing in the grass. He bends down, takes the delicate stem between his thumb and forefinger, and slowly, carefully pulls it upward and sideways until the stem snaps. And now we have a clear scientific comparison. When Mrs. Saunders cut the thick stem of the yellow rose with sharp scissors, Thomas recorded a frightful, sharp, metallic shriek. But when Thomas slowly snapped the tiny white daisy with his bare fingers, the machine picked up something entirely different. From the exact moment the pulling started to the moment the stem finally broke, he distinctly heard a faint, high-pitched cry. But here's the fascinating part. It was curiously emotionless. He tries it on another daisy just to be sure, and the exact same faint, high-pitched cry rings out. Thomas stands up in the darkening garden, his mind just racing. Does the little daisy feel the same intense agony as the rose? And then he realizes something incredibly profound. No, actually, it wasn't pain, it was surprise. He figures out that plants don't have a nervous system like humans do. They don't have brains or throats to cry with. Therefore, the sound didn't actually express human feelings. It was a neutral, stony cry. A single, emotionless note expressing a sudden shock. It was just a raw reaction to being changed, not a human cry of pain. You see, Thomas might have built a machine out of wires and dials, but what he really discovered was that empathy helps us hear even the quietest voices, sometimes voices we never even expected to find. He learned that just because something doesn't speak our specific language or scream in a pitch our ears can hear doesn't mean it isn't alive, reacting, and experiencing the world in its own unique, invisible way. Science isn't just about building cool gadgets, guys. It's really about paying close attention to the quiet, hidden wonders of nature. Which brings us to our final, lingering thought for today. The next time you are playing out in your backyard and you reach down to pick a bright yellow dandelion or snap a green twig off a tree, what do you think it will say? Will it be a sharp metallic shriek, or maybe a faint note of surprise? The world around us is completely full of invisible magic and unheard sounds, just waiting for someone curious enough to finally listen.
So keep your eyes open, keep your minds curious, and never, ever stop wondering about the amazing secrets hidden right in your own backyard.